Hi there. So, because I get to see so many amazing pieces and listen to the stories of so many incredible stories, I had an amazing appraisal today and it turned into this really fabulous story, and I just wanted to tell you about it. Someone brought in this really wonderful Tide to Parn bracelet from, the probably 1780s. And it was in very, very good shape, but they wanted to know the history behind it. So I started telling them the history, and I'm sure that you already know the history, but just in case for those of you who are watching this who don't, here's what's going on with these Tide to Parn bracelets. A lot of them were made in pairs because they were known as wedding bracelets. Now, I'm not sure whether they were actually given at weddings. That seems to be the story that's come down to us today, but whether that's actually accurate or not, I'm not really sure. But at any rate, wedding bracelets are supposedly gifts given from the groom to the bride, either before the wedding or during, after the wedding as a wedding gift. So you would generally wear one bracelet on each wrist, and that's why they were made in pairs. It wasn't until, the late 1900s or the early 20th century that people stopped wearing bracelets in pairs. So we started talking. I was talking, the husband and the wife was there, and we just started talking about the family. It turns out, her family actually came over here in the very late 1600s. So our family has been in the United States for a very long time. Most of the people that came to the United States in that time were second sons. So, the first son would inherit the family money, and then the second son would come here, oftentimes with his wife or his family. They would usually go into agriculture, and that's essentially what this family did too. But we started talking more and more about this bracelet, and it turns out that the bracelet on the inside of it was engraved. Now, I love it when things are engraved because you never know the things that you're going to uncover when something's engraved inside. So this bracelet was engraved, and on the inside of it, it said, Aurelia from Father. Now, there's a little bit of damage on the engraving, or just before the engraving actually. It looked like there was a little bit of a wave in the gold, and the husband had asked me what would cause this. And I said, well, there are two things that could have caused this. The first thing would just be if there was a damage and that had to be repaired. Anytime you solder something, you're applying heat to gold, and if the solder is too hot, or if the torch is too hot that you're going to solder with, it can actually damage the bracelet, kind of like melt the gold a little bit. And then when it went back together, it just kind of went back together with this little wave. So that's one possible explanation of the damage. The second explanation, which is even cooler and a slightly more romantic version of the possible damage, or why it could have been damaged in the first place, considering the fact that it was a wedding bracelet. Now, this woman told me that this bracelet was her great aunt's, and her aunt had passed it down in the family, but her aunt never married, and her parents gave her this bracelet. So I surmised that perhaps it was re-engraved. Maybe there was an original engraving in the bracelet and someone had polished it out and engraved on top of it. And the husband had actually, and the wife said, no, I don't think that's the case. And the husband said, well, wait a minute. Maybe it was actually your great aunt's mother, talking to the wife, maybe it was your great aunt's mother who had this bracelet first, and it was the father of this great aunt who had given it to his wife first and engraved it with her name on the inside of it. And then when that mother passed away and this daughter, who was this woman's great aunt, had inherited it, perhaps it was re-engraved with the daughter's name, which was this lady's great aunt. So we kept talking, and as it turns out, there's a second matching bracelet in the family, which is completely amazing because most of these bracelets had been broken up over the years. Like, one daughter would inherit one and one daughter would inherit another, which is exactly what happened in this family. And I said, when you talk to it's her sister who owns the second bracelet, the match to this one that I was appraising today. And I said, when you go home, ask your sister, is the bracelet engraved? And if it's engraved, is there damage in the same place? Because if there was damage in the same place, it's very, very likely that it was this wedding bracelet story about how the father had given it to the mother with her name engraved into it. And then when the mother passed away, it was the daughter who inherited it, and the father had the daughter's name re-engraved in the bracelet. So that's a very likely scenario for how this got damaged and what the damage actually means. So all of these stories are so incredible to me because these pieces have lives. Jewelry has lives. And it's almost like what I do is being a jewelry detective. It's almost like genealogical work for jewelry. And it's amazing to me because you get to uncover the lives that these jewelry pieces have led. And I love it. I love it more than anything else. So it's very, very likely that you actually have stories like this in your family. And these stories are just waiting to be uncovered. They can be told through your jewelry. So if you think that you have a story like this, I'd love to uncover it. So why don't you send me a message and tell me about it? Send me some pictures and we'll go from there.